Okay, today we're going to talk about me qualifying for the Bassmaster Classic by winning the 1991 Federation Championship. I found a Bass Times with the article about it. There I am, and I'm going to start out by reading, rather than remembering how I felt about it, I can read a direct quote out of here. So, from the interview after winning. Before the tournament started, I felt that the Eastern Division anglers would have a clear advantage over the other divisions. We are all very used to fishing clear upland reservoirs, which is what Smith Mountain is. And so I knew if I wanted to go to the Bassmaster Classic, I would have to win the Federation Championship. Just placing high wouldn't be good enough. And boy, was I right. By the end of the tournament, the top three finishers for the tournament were all out of the Eastern Division. The highest finisher from another division was Denny Stacy, finished fourth in the tournament out of the Southern Division, and I beat him by more than 10 pounds. So previously, a link, I talked about my practice going into the tournament. I purposely fished near the dam. It also says in this article that I never saw another boat in practice or during the tournament. I fished down by the dam to find clear water. I felt that the fish would be spawning. There was some, a major front came through just before the tournament. We even had some snow flurries overnight or something during practice. I don't remember exactly. The only fish that I felt like were really catchable fish were the few fish that had already started spawning that were locked on beds. I went into the tournament with 12 fish on beds that I felt were catchable. If you do much bed fishing, if you do a lot of sight fishing, you can really recognize what a catchable fish is just by looking at them. I'll get into that some more. So of those 12 fish I felt that were locked that I could definitely catch over the next 3 days, 4 of them were smallmouth bass. And smallmouth bass are really easy to catch off a bed. So we went out the first day of the tournament. I made the We started way up the Roanoke River, where the launch was. All the other 4 that qualified for the Classic from the other divisions were fishing the more off-colored water up the river. And so I ran down the dam where it was clear. I went immediately to the biggest smallmouth bass I had located. And do a sluggo by Bubblegum Sluggo. And probably caught him on about the first cast, like a 3-pound smallmouth. Then I spent the next several hours trying to catch these largemouth bass off of beds. They were all difficult to catch. I spent up, a half hour to an hour on each one through 6 different baits, according to the article. The main baits I caught the spawning fish were on a tube, Gitsit tube, or a Hale's crawworm. And I cut the crawworm down just so it was just that much of it. Fished either of those baits on a regular ball head jig. So the first day it was real tough to catch fish, and so I caught 3. I had the initial smallmouth I caught right away. I spent the next 3 or 4 hours to catch 3 keeper largemouth. Maybe there was an hour left to fish, so I went and gathered up another smallmouth. Brought in 5 fish. Article doesn't say. I guess I had about 11 pounds. I was leading the tournament. Over the course of the tournament, there was only 12 limits caught by the 45 or so anglers that make the national. So, a limit was good. I was leading. Second day, right off the bat, I had a camera boat because I was leading the tournament. I fished, the fish were a little bit easier to catch. Took a little less time to catch each one. Spent a lot of time fishing between beds with a sluggo, trying to find more fish. Caught a couple of fish on the sluggo. In the article, it talks about how close I fished to some of these fish. There was one particular fish that was, and this is, if guys, there's a technique I use that I call tickling, which is not really tickling. There was this fish spawning inside a stump. There was like a hollow stump, and the fish was spawning right in the middle. So I parked the boat almost on top of the stump, because it says in the article I caught fish vertical in 3 feet of water, and that was this fish. So the fish is in the stump, and fish on beds, they all do the same thing. They'll be on a bed, you throw your lure in the bed, they'll go out off the bed, make a big circle, come back. And basically, you keep throwing at a fish, it'll make smaller and smaller circles, and when it's spinning around in the bed, you catch them. So, so if you have a fish on a bed, this fish, normally if I have a fish on a bed that's locked in that won't leave, and sometimes they'll just act like a zombie. They'll sit there and not respond to your bait. So when they do that, what I like to do is start tickling them, which really is what I'll do is hit them in the tail with the lure, and so they turn around and look at it. And sometimes I'll hit them in the tail and pull the bait off, so when they turn around and look, nothing will be there. And if you're close enough to like flip to the fish, you do that over and over with a fish that won't leave, you can drive them insane. And you can, when a fish is on the bed and you like harass him, you can tell when he's going to hit, because the whole posture of the fish changes. All of a sudden, when they get ready to bite, their dorsal fin stands up, their fins go off to the side, and you can tell that they're ready to bite. But this fish was inside this stump, so I kept getting snagged. So I swung the lure up and held it in my hand, and I took the rod tip and started poking this fish inside the stump with the tip of the rod. And I was pushing him around, and he wouldn't leave, so I started pushing him around and stuff. And he basically turned around and tried to hit the tip of the rod, so I dropped the lure in there and yanked him right out. So that's I've done that a couple times over the years, but that was a pretty cool deal, and something I don't think very many guys ever would have even thought of doing. So second day of the tournament, I ended up catching over a limit, 7 or 8 keeper fish, and I expanded my lead. I caught another 10 or 11 pounds, or whatever. I know my total for the tournament was 31.15, and I know I caught about 8 pounds the last day, so I caught more or less 11 pounds the first 2 days to get to that total. So going to the final day of the tournament, I had a pretty big lead. I mean, by day 2, the other 4 qualifiers from the other divisions didn't even make that total by the end of the tournament. I think there was Les Milburn and Herb Reed from the Eastern Division were doing fairly well, but I think Herb was probably 7 pounds behind me going into the tournament. Basically, I needed to catch a fish to win this tournament, or 2 fish with the kind of catches we're going out. So, one thing I'd missed too is the second day I'd also fished for this fish. Pretty good sized fish was spawning right next to a dock, and I might even fish for him for a while the first day. And this particular fish was about a 3-pound fish, and he was right next to the dock, and when you harass him to a point that you're getting close, he would just go hide under the dock. So I spent probably an hour on him the first day, didn't catch him, spent probably another hour on the second day, didn't catch him, and then leaving that fish the second day, I saw this big fish spawning next to the next dock. It had just shown up. That was it was the dock that I'd caught the 6-pounder in practice off of. If you watch the practice video, that's why I particularly mentioned that I caught that fish, because this fish had showed up on this dock sometime the second day of the tournament. So here I'm going into the third day with the lead, big lead. I went out. I had probably only maybe, now I had five fish still found, and I knew where they were. Went out the third day, caught the last of my smallmouth, caught the other 3 keepers. So I was up to 4 fish and had probably half a day left of fishing, and I know I had the tournament won at this point. So I spent the rest of the day fishing for this 3-pounder that kept hiding under the dock, and trying to catch that 6-pounder that had just showed up. And that 3-pounder, I never caught him. I had 4 hours invested in that fish during the tournament, and the 6 had, you know, the big fish had showed up. It was one of the few pairs that came out during the tournament. I didn't get him either, but I ultimately won. I have a thing here. I had 31-12, won the tournament. Herb Reed, the inventor of the Sluggo. And this actually is interesting bait, because this is a hand-poured Sluggo I've dug out. This is what Herb was actually, me and Herb were actually fishing the ones he was hand pouring. He was just getting ready to launch the, he had just got the molds and launched his company, you know, went national with his company. So this was a big thing for him. So he won big in that tournament too, even though that was his chance to go to Classic. And another fellow, Les Milburn, came in third with 25-1. Dennis Stacy, like I mentioned earlier, finished 4th in the tournament with 21-10. Jerry Wagner, Central Division, finished 5th with 20 pounds. So you can see the drops were pretty far. I mean, Les finished in 3rd, was 4 pounds ahead of the next Classic qualifier. Gary Brown, the Central Division, or Northern Division, at 18-1, finished 7th. So, you know, it only took about 16 pounds to come in the top 10. And Mickey Truesdale, the Western Division, finished 13th with 14-4. Tough to find this information on these old tournaments. Oh, there's not one other thing I wanted to show you. Herb sent me a flat of these bubblegum Sluggos. Like, I caught fish, found my fish and caught my fish during the tournament on, and I still have that left from 1991, this many of them. I still catch fish on these, but I think when you start with several thousand, they'll last you for a while. Well, good talk to you. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks. Bye.